Good morning, preppers. Happy day to you. We need to address the elephant in the room. And the elephant in this case, 2 thumbs up for this guy, it's me. Let's talk about weight. Now, of course, I mentioned before the number one attribute you should actually have for prepping besides stockpiling food, medicine, is community. And I still stand by that. Community is essential because that's something that modern America has lost. You go to other countries, third world countries, go into history, and the communities always stuck together. Now, why isn't fitness, why isn't weight loss, being in shape the number one in my opinion? Well, understand that it doesn't matter how good of a shape you are, accidents still happen. Disease still sets in. Old age occurs. And as time goes on, no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to protect yourself. You're not going to be able to bug out. When I was in Taekwondo, which we did for the longest time, we actually had a guy came in who was actually a friend of mine before we started Taekwondo, and he was a black belt. I think even a double black belt. He was probably upwards in 70s, I think it was. And he would come in simply just for the workout, which was awesome, by the way. And when I spar with him, I would actually, of course, I would take it easy on him, even though he was a black belt, and I certainly was not at that time. And obviously, as you know, well, maybe you don't know, your elastic fibers of your body switch you from being very flexible to more cartilaginous, so you can't move very well. You become less flexible. You can get that, by the way, you can get that back, by the way, by simply just stretching a lot more and working in that direction. And we're talking about dynamic stretching. That's not what this video is about, obviously. But you get nice and warmed up and then stretch. Don't stretch cold. You're asking for trouble. But you can actually gain a lot of that flexibility back. It takes a long time and it's painful, but you can do it. But for myself, let's forget about Taekwondo. Let's just talk about myself. I was actually a really skinny kid. Went through my life, and then finally in my middle school years, I hung around with a pudgy friend, and both of us became pudgy friends. Then when I started high school, we moved back to New York. That's where I was born originally, and went to a school there, became more active, went outside, played baseball, did a lot of stuff sports-wise and everything, and I became in really good shape. Injured myself. Injured my leg. I tore a ligament that was like, I was in a cast for like 2 months and gained a little bit of weight. But once it was off, I really worked out a lot more. So I was running a lot, and I joined the military, and off I went. In the military, even then, it was probably the most fit I've ever been in. I remember being told, it was like, wow, you lost a lot of weight. My weight hadn't changed, but I became more trim and actually gained a lot more muscle. Let's see, through college, did pretty well. Got married, and boom, down it went. And I think it's a combination for me. And I want to kind of there's a point for all this, by the way. I think it was a combination of now eating like 3 meals a day. In my 20s, who cares? I would just eat a little bit here when I'm hungry and a little bit there. But now I have 3 meals a day with an amazing wife who is a really good cook, and becoming more sedentary. I sat around a lot more. Sorry, that's my brain injury talking. I can't talk anymore. But I sat around a lot more and didn't have as much exercise to be able to try to stay trim. And it was probably a motivation thing too. I had my wife and I have kids. I really hate to say that's the case, but that does happen. You know, I was just not really motivated anymore. Wasn't in the military anymore. However, during our marriage, there were some times indeed where I did work out more and lost the weight. And it came off pretty easy. Okay. So here I am today. I've lost well over 30 pounds now, going to be close to a 40 soon. And my wife and I are doing that through keto, which I'm going to point at the very end again, but there's a video that you need to watch. If you haven't watched it, basically the best food to actually have for survival. And it's all about proteins. It's all about cutting out carbs, because your body, long story short, you do not have to have carbs in your diet ever in your diet. You can actually convert proteins into carbs as needed. Now, if you eat carbs though, and which is really weird, people agree with it or disagree with this, and they can be wrong. I don't care about that. If you eat carbs, your body metabolizes. That's what metabolism is, and turns it into fat. Okay, so protein really is the key to weight loss. Eat a lot of protein. Your body can't make a lot of carbs, therefore you lose weight. And we're losing weight. And Ashley and I are working out. We try to walk a couple miles-ish every day and just watch what we eat. Now, with that in mind, I hope that gives you a little bit of motivation, because I know there's some people out there who are thin as a rail. And Ashley's brother, Barry, love him to death, obviously, but that man, I'll tell you, you could actually force feed him 300 cheeseburgers a day and he will never gain a pound. Even as, we're talking about still the same age as us as well. He will always be thin as a rail. Obviously his metabolism works in a way so he basically stays thin as a rail. And it's interesting, out of all our kids, I have one son, he is thin as a rail just like that. And boy, does that boy have energy. Off he goes. And then there's other people, and I'm not going to blame myself totally on simply just metabolism, but what I find difficult is this. Here I am in a situation, I'll tell you what my diet is every day. Practically speaking, I get up in the morning, I usually have a couple hard-boiled eggs. Lunchtime, just something small for lunch. Try to stay with more proteins and fats. Same thing with dinner time. If sometimes for dinner, once in a while, I'll just actually have a little bit of meat and cheese, something like that. And then I try not to have a snack at all at night. And if I stay on that diet, I lose weight. And there's some nights I'm really hungry, but I was like last night, I'll push through it. And sure enough, I've lost a lot more weight. It just keeps coming off. And the hard part about situations like that is when you get down to your weight, you need to be able to maintain it and not rebound and start eating everything like we're going crazy out of tomorrow. And I certainly have plans to make that happen. But for me, I've had people, and this video is not about pouncing on people by any means, but I've had lots of people who will say, "Oh my gosh, look at you. You're so fat. Oh my gosh, look at your wife. She's so fat." And all I can say to that guy is, you're lucky you don't live next door, because I'd kick your butt. That's all. You insult my wife and you hide behind a computer, you're called a coward. But I call all these people cowards anyways, because I know a lot of you have probably struggled with weight as well. The people who knock you for being heavier are cowards. And here's why. Anybody who is secure in their life is never going to knock down somebody else. Verbally, mentally, physically, they're not going to do that, because simply put, when you actually have problems in your life, and you guys know this, that's what bullies are all about. You constantly shoot down other people to make yourself feel better. So you know what? Go ahead and knock on me all you want to that I need to lose some weight. Obviously I do. But those people who are knocking me for that, I'm going to tell you right now, you have far worse problems than I do for the fact that you need to say something about that. Because a true person, a person who is a real man, by the way, would go up and say, "Hey, Eric, I've noticed you're kind of heavy. Do you want to have some pointers, maybe to help lose weight?" That's a man. If you want to dog on me, and especially on my wife, you're a man-child. That's all there is to it. Okay, with that being said, it's tough, and it's kind of like a jip in a lot of ways for the fact that I watch other people eat, and holy cow, the stuff they eat, if I eat it, I'm going to still be fatter than I am now. And I was just dealt a body where, simply put, that's not it for me. And it shows there is genetics that way, because here's Ashley and here's her brother Barry. Barry is thin as a rail. Ashley is not thin as a rail. Barry eats anything all the time, everything he wants. Ashley and myself, we barely eat anything and we gain the weight. And again, this video isn't about necessarily Barry. I love him to death, but it's about you, and it's about me, and it's about prepping. Now, we've noticed that we can get by with smaller portions. We've noticed that we can get by without snacks at night and such. And it's sometimes you get hungry, sure, but your body, when it starts getting into that mode of things, you'll start doing much better. And that's important when it comes to prepping, because in the United States, especially, but other countries too, we thrive on way too much food portions, especially restaurants. For something in us, we feel like we need to spend the money, and we want to have, I want my food for that money. And therefore you get a lot of grub. And I know a lot of people don't have money. And one of the problems is this, that when you pay $5 for a thing of food, you feel like you need to eat all that food because I paid for it and I don't have a lot of money as it is. And so therefore I need to make sure that I utilize it and clean my plate. I get it. But we need to really shift our focus, especially when it comes to prepping, and not simply jump down that bandwagon of you have to eat a lot of food. In fact, just the opposite. With prepping and cataclysmic times may come, you may not have a lot of food. So practicing now and not eating so much food, and especially trying to eat more proteins than carbs, is definitely going to make things better for you. And we simply found, even though we hate having to watch what we eat, and I'm sure a lot of you have been down that road too, you hate having to watch what you eat, you hate it. It's something you must do. You must have the willpower to push through for this. Because let's be honest, we're in a situation where, you know what, a time may come where we need to really watch what we're eating, because there may not be a lot of food. We're already seeing inflation and shortages as it is. So I hope at the very least this video has given you some motivation to possibly try to lose weight, some motivation to possibly work out more and get some exercise. Listen, walking and swimming, it's all you have to do. It's the most gentlest things to get your metabolism up. The more energy you spend doing things, the more your body makes these little boogers called mitochondria to burn more energy. The reason you feel sluggish now, if you feel sluggish, obviously, is you have barely of these mitochondria in your cells, and your body's not going to make more of you if you're not going to use them. But you start exercising every day, your body will do that. And that's why starting on a diet and starting exercising is so tough, because at the beginning you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted and so tired and so hungry. It's because that's what you're used to, is having a sluggish lifestyle, eating a lot of food. But you go to the other opposite end of not having a lot of food and you get more exercise. It may take a week or 2 or 28 days to acclimate, but you will acclimate and you feel much better. And that's exactly where Ashley and I are right now. And we're very happy to share this with you. And I know it's a very different video when it comes to prepping, but obviously being in shape is absolutely essential for prepping. It's all part of it. Now, if you, let's say you are disabled, and I understand that, I'm disabled too, and you can't go out and walk. I get it. But you can control how much you eat, and you can try to lose weight that way, because losing the weight will mean will be night and day for you, as far as meaning all in the world, as far as what you need to do to be able to survive what possibly might be coming. We don't know. But again, I still stress that number one thing should be community, because there will always be people who can't help themselves, and that's up to us to help those people. We're not alone in this, and we should be taking care of our neighbors in every single circumstance and stick together. No matter how much we are divided in this country right now, community is even more essential. But of course, we have to do what we can for ourselves too, and that's also lose weight and get in shape. Okay, I hope this helps.